In this video, I want to talk about digital inputs, how we get information into a microcontroller. To help us on our way, I've got a eBlocks 3 um, PIC board with touchscreen display and a combo board. And the combo board has a number of switches and LEDs on port A and on port B. I'm going to use those switches and LEDs to show the principle of how we get inputs into a microcontroller. Here's a Flowcode program. And on the Flowcode program, I've got 8 switches on port A and 8 LEDs on port B. And what I've done is I've put the binary equivalent for each of those bits there, just so you can see how that works. Now, the program is really simple. I've got an endless loop, and what I'm doing is the first command inside the loop is a input command, and it takes the value of port A and puts it into a variable. And the variable is called input. And variables are controlled here on Object Explorer. If you click on variables, and you can add new variables using that dialog there. And if you double click, you can see the properties of the variable input that we set up. So the variable is called input. It has an initial value of 0, and you can add a description if you wish. And then you need to choose the variable type. And there are different sorts of variables, as you can see here. And the one we've chosen is type byte. So a byte is represented by just one memory block, if you like, inside the microcontroller. And that memory block consists of 8 bits of byte, 8 bits of memory. And with those 8 bits, you can make a number in the range 0 to 255. And in programming, what we do is we specify what the type of our variable is, because it uses up different amounts of memory. And the more memory a variable uses, the longer the calculations will take. So if you've got very time-sensitive applications, you need to be very aware of what you're doing here. And you can see here the different types. So Boolean is just 1 bit. It's either 1 or 0. A byte occupies 1 byte, 0 to 255. An int is basically 2 bytes. And so the number there can be minus 32,000 to plus 32,000. Or a uint is also 2 bytes, but it has a slightly different range. It's got a different purpose. And you can have longs, ulongs, floating points, and then strings, which are fractions of bytes. So each character in a string occupies 1 byte. And so the default size of 20 allows you to have 20 characters in effectively one variable. And there are floating points and object handles, which we won't talk about here. So you need to be aware of what the type of variable you want is. And in this case, we've chosen type byte. So we read port A into the variable input, and then simply we put the variable input out to port B. And if we debug that, then you can see that when I click on each of the input switches, the appropriate output switch is lit up. And we look at the hardware, then you can see that working on the hardware as well. So as I select each button on port A, you can see the corresponding LED on port B light up.